Hello everybody, NitPicker here, complaining about issues great and small for your entertainment, and today we're going to be doing something completely different. With me finishing the mainline series and being pretty critical of all the Sonic games, I wanted to end this series with a bit of positivity. So I put this collab together with as many friends and people that wanted to join as possible, and the theme was just to be positive. So I asked all of these creators to come together and talk about their favorite Sonic game. However, to keep this collab fresh and not just about the same 3 or 4 games, I put a 2-person limit on each game. So once 2 people chose that game, nobody else could choose it. So the choice of the creators doesn't represent exactly their favorite game, but it represents one of their favorite games. Just wanted to make that clear. And I just want to give a massive shout out to Beat 'em Up Wood, like he's watching this. But he made a video with a bunch of Nintendo creators about their favorite Nintendo Switch games, and that's what's inspired this idea. So huge shout out to him. Alright, enough about me. Let's start out this collab. And I think for our first stop, we'll stop at the LukeStation.
This is the Sonic equivalent to my comfort food. I don't have as much love for this game as I do with games like Sonic Adventure and Sonic Colors, but man, if this isn't a phenomenal gameplay experience, like, this is just a better overall package. I have a very special connection to this game, since it's the only classic game I could beat when I was younger. And yeah, I remember being disappointed by the fact that Metropolis had a 3rd act, and yeah, I had a hard time beating the final boss, and yeah, I never touched those special stages. But when I play this game, I just relax. I love that I can just beat this game in half an hour when I'm feeling down and just be done with it. Not to mention this thing is everywhere, on the Switch, on Steam, on your phone, on the 3DS. I can play this game anywhere, anytime, and I think that's the reason this is my comfort game. Because unlike the other classics, this is just a game that I can play to completion in a relatively short amount of time without hassle when I'm tired. And that's when a game is perfect to me. When I can have a blast with it, no matter the situation. I guess in that sense, Sonic is a bit like one of my videos, you know, just turn it on when you're tired and have a blast until it's all over. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, you can keep watching right here. I present the iCard that Cole put in the video for me. I spent a lot of time on this script. Thank you for watching.
So now that we've started off with a pretty good start, and since we're in a bit of a classic mood, let's head it off to Daviron, who wants to talk about one of my favorite Sonic games personally, Sonic Mania.
Back at 2017 just makes me realize how much 2017 really was an important year for gaming. We had so many hit games coming out from all sorts of different franchises. Games like Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Garfield Kart Furious Racing. All amazing games, and while my personal favorite game of the year was Mario Odyssey, Sonic the Hedgehog had a few wins in there as well. And one such win is the topic of this segment. The game was set to be a brand new 2D adventure alongside the main event for that year. And while said main event kind of disappointed us, the 2D game ended up being the star of the show and one of the best Sonic games in recent memory. That game being Sonic Forces. Jokes aside, Sonic Mania is one of my favorite Sonic games. It's not my all-time favorite because that honor goes to the better than Sonic Unleashed Boost game, but still, Sonic Mania is a great game overall, and it's my favorite 2D game. Sonic Mania just has that very rare level of polish that we never really see in a Sonic game before. Even among the best Sonic games, there's still a few things that you can just say, I wasn't a fan of, like the alternate characters in the adventure games. But in Sonic Mania, everything feels just right, to the point where the only real issues with the game are the lack of original concepts. What Sonic Mania offers to the franchise is a really fun, a well-polished, a great-looking, and just a really enjoyable 2D Sonic game. It's got great character controls, it's got some amazing level design, it's got a banging soundtrack, and it's one of those rare cases in the franchise where just everything comes together to create a great experience. And oh my god, can we just talk about that angelic opening animation? It's truly a work of art. It's amazing and easily one of my favorite Sonic cutscenes ever. If I'm being honest, Tyson Hesse really showed his colors with this, and I think he's one of the greatest people they ever got to work with the Sonic franchise. In the marketing leading up to Sonic Mania, Sega was always presenting this as a proud passion project. They were finally proud of something they made. They were displaying it for the world to see. It was a collaboration between the fans and Sega themselves. And for this one, they definitely had reason to be proud, because Sonic Mania is truly amazing. And then the modding scene went on to make the game infinitely better.
Now before we go any further, let me fulfill a contractual obligation. That's right, I now have a sponsor, and here's AverageBurgerboy to tell you all about it.
Yo, what's up? Burger Boy here. Buy smoked mon. Buy smoked mon in Holliska. Buy smoked mon in Holliska. Buy smoked mon in Holliska.
Okay, so I want to do one more classic Sonic game, but I don't remember who sent it. Was his name Maximus? No, it was JustMaxT. You just had to add that T in there, Max. That joke would have been so perfect if you didn't add
The Sonic the Hedgehog series has a vast collection of wonderful and amazing games, so for me, it's really hard to pick a personal favorite. It's this one. It's totally this one. It's really good, guys. Come on, just play it. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is a masterclass of 2D platforming, and that is saying a lot considering all the great 2D platformers out there. Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, hell, even Sonic 2 are all fantastic games. But in my personal opinion, this game outshines all of them, and today I'm here to list a few reasons why. Let's start with the gameplay. I feel Sonic the Hedgehog's 2D gameplay works best when it centers itself around three core ideas: platforming, momentum, and exploration, to an extent. The original game got a good blend of these ideas in a few levels, but fails miserably in others. Sonic 2 nails the platforming and high-speed momentum-based gameplay, but sacrifices a lot of the exploration for generally more straightforward level design. But Sonic 3, oh, Sonic 3 gets this formula down perfectly. The game showcases many branching paths and secrets to find, challenging and interesting platforming segments, and a wide variety of slopes and loops to help you gain and maintain momentum and blast through levels at exhilarating speeds. Also, Sonic doesn't feel like ass to control. That plays a really big factor in a game being good, cough cough. Alright, story time! The story itself is pretty basic. Sonic and Tails are in a location with new and old threats, yada yada yada, gotta save the world I guess. But the way the story is told is genius. Throughout the levels you'll see small hints about lore and plot details. Each stage ends with a little cutscene too, explaining how characters get from one location to another. There's no dialogue whatsoever, but the story could be completely understood by a toddler. I know plenty of games do this now, but for the time this game came out, I doubt it was too common. Also, I'm a sucker for visual storytelling like this, so I love the way this game looks. It's just so visually appealing. The stages are so lively and unique. The first level isn't even Green Hill Zone. That's crazy! Okay, but actually, this game is very pretty. I think the levels are designed visually very well in a way that makes each and every one of them distinct and memorable. Also, the character sprites are the best they've ever been. Yeah, I said it. This is the best Sonic sprite. It just radiates that radical Sonic energy. If you disagree, I respect your opinion. But you're wrong. Oh shoot, looks like I'm running out of time. It's time for a lightning round, baby. The music slaps. Oh my god. 12 plus original zones? That's crazy. New form? Oh my god, it looks so cool. A fun water stage? What? And of course, cool funny McDonald's toy. And that's why Sonic 3 Knuckles is my personal favorite Sonic game. Okay, I'm done. Can I go home now?
Oh, damn it. Oh, I'm sorry. I realized that we've been kind of giving classic Sonic a little bit too much love, and we haven't given any love to modern Sonic, so it's kind of getting off balance here. So why don't we head over to TheCrazyGamer, and he'll tell us about the first game to be taken from this lineup. I'm being dead serious. Whenever I sent this form out to people, this was the first game that 2 people took, and I don't get it. I don't get love.
Oh, not again. When it comes to which Sonic game I can say that I can like the most, I could probably say Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Sonic Rush Adventure. However, if I had to pick one title from this franchise that I can consider as my all-time favorite, that one would have to automatically go to Sonic Unleashed. I mean, I love this game so much that I happen to own 3 copies of the same game, so yeah. Now, Sonic Heroes for the PC was actually the first ever Sonic game that I played and owned back in the day. However, I gotta give props to Sonic Unleashed, as this was the actual game that introduced me into the series in the first place. Now, I encountered this game in one of the most questionable ways possible that anyone could probably think of. An adult gaming magazine. I mean, can you imagine seeing this character artwork in the front cover of a magazine just right next to an ad that's promoting Lara Croft with very pleasing camera angles? That was a thing that happened, yeah, that was shit. Now, over the years, Sonic Unleashed has actually received a lot of mixed reviews all the way since its release back in 2008. All of this was all because of the two-part split gameplay styles that the game offers. You got Hedgehog, and then you got Werehog. Oh yeah, Sonic is a werehog in this game, which is basically what if a hedgehog became a werewolf. Hedgehog Sonic is fast-paced with high-speed platforming that just makes you want to say, feeling good, feeling good, feeling good. Where Sonic, however, is slower, focusing more on combat gameplay. In my opinion, I think the combat is decent when it's fully leveled up. Yeah, that's right, this game has RPG elements into it. Gameplay-wise, about 90% of the time, I'm just playing the daytime Hedgehog levels, though I will play the Werehog levels now and then, just, for some replayability. Besides the gameplay, however, we do have a story which has Sonic travel around the world to different countries that resemble real-life locations. We get new characters as well as returning ones. However, the best thing about this game has to be, hands down, the soundtrack. The instrumental soundtrack for the main theme and using instruments from real cultures to represent the cultures in the game is just amazing to hear. From the daytime fast-paced rock to the nighttime jazz, each song is unique to every level, and the main lyrical theme of Sonic Unleashed, Endless Possibilities, is by far my favorite Sonic theme to this day, being one of my most replayed songs. Sonic Unleashed might be a mixed reviewed title. I do also agree with that. I do enjoy half of the game being the daytime levels, and I don't really enjoy that much of the nighttime levels. However, I'm not saying it's bad. But I'm not gonna lie when I say that if it wasn't for this game getting me introduced into this series, I don't think I would have ever met a lot of the content creators online on this platform to this day. Some of which I can even consider a friend. Well, I guess that brings a whole new meaning to Endless Possibilities. Right?
Now this next person, I argue this didn't count, okay? I want to make that very clear before we start. If you think this entry doesn't count, I am in full agreement with you, and I tried to tell him it, but XPool just wanted to go ahead and do it, so have at it.
Can you say whether the rumors of a game called Sonic Dimensions on the Wii U is true or false? Sonic Dimensions? I think it's a complete hoax. Takashi Iizuka, 2012. Goodbye. Who's laughing now, Iizuka? Sonic Dimensions! I call it peak fiction, my friends at my old school call it gay. This is, not being hyperbole, one of the best Sonic games released in the last 12 years, and some wouldn't even call it a game. As part of the Year 2 expansion pass for the defunct Toys to Life game LEGO Dimensions, Sonic Dimensions serves as a miniature Sonic game chock full of references to the series past. This game is quite literally the Sonic Twitter account Frankenstein into a proper video game. It's so meta that this being released today would stir an unrivaled uproar in the community. There are a bunch of references to internet memes like the Ann Knuckles meme, the Barrel of Doom, Omochao being unnecessarily obnoxious, Big the Cat's presence in general, along with his mission being titled Big's Big Fishing Adventure 4. Dude! It's not just the memes that get representation either, there are countless references to the series as a whole, with nearly every main Sonic character being represented, others being mentioned, Shadow holding a gun, Elise and Sonic's relationship,
last time I met a princess, I don't quite remember, never mind.
Sonic saying the lyrics to Sonic R songs, Knuckles singing the lyrics to his rap songs from Sonic Adventure 2, and literally every stage that's represented in the game. Normally I'd find this pretty intrusive, especially after games like Forces, Mania, and now Frontiers are shoving references to the past down our throats, and this is 17 times worse in that department, but I don't know, man, I just feel really... LEGO games have always had this humor to them where they're referencing a franchise's past or making jokes about whatever they're adapting. So it's very fitting for something like this. And this was really the era of Sonic where I started getting into the community, so seeing references to memes from that era, intrusive or not, is always going to bring a smile to my face. But that doesn't matter if the game itself isn't fun. So the question on everyone's mind is Sonic Dimensions fun? Yeah. It's really fun. Honestly, I'm not sure if I've had this much pure fun in a Sonic game since playing Sonic Adventure 1 for the first time on the Sega Dreamcast. Sonic is super fun to control. He's far faster at literally everything than the rest of the characters. Running, building, acrobating, rail grinding. He gets impatient when the game takes too long to load, just like the rest of us playing on the stupid dumb Xbox One. Sonic also has a couple combat abilities up his sleeve with moves from Super Smash Bros., Sonic the Fighters, and even some moves that the Werehog used in Sonic Unleashed. These are mostly just spamming X to win, but it's a really interesting first step for the series as a whole. And since this is LEGO Dimensions, you can take Sonic's intense action to other universes like Adventure Time, Powerpuff Girls, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, the LEGO Movie. These two have collided twice! Sonic Dimensions is just pure, plain fun in both references and gameplay. But why? Why did I choose this game over Sonic 3, Sonic Generations, Adventure 2, Colors, anything else? Well, to put it simply, this was the first Sonic game that I was actively looking forward to. It wasn't the first Sonic game that I bought at launch, nor was it the first I pre-ordered, but the amount of genuine excitement that I had for this, whether it was because of the cornucopia of references, or the novelty of Sonic as a Lego, or the crossover with other universes, the hype behind finally seeing my mom bring out that paper box filled with plastic on my way back to school is something that has never and probably never will be rivaled by any other Sonic game.
Well, in honor of XPool picking something that I don't think counts, let's out of spite, let's put what he wanted to do before he picked LEGO Dimensions. Here's TomTopics with Sonic Colors.
Hello, I am alive and well for the most part, and I'm here to squabble about funny cartoon game for viewing pleasure. I am not getting paid for this. Sonic Colors is a real needle in the haystack for a multitude of reasons. It acted as a reset button, was a console exclusive for the Wii at the time, it sparked the beginning of a colourfully dark age, created more infighting than 06, truly a marvel. But god damn it, I love it. This is one of, if not the first game in the series I played, so there's probably sentimental value at play and bias talking, but I mean, just have a look. We got grass, rock, pollution, more rocks, the setting of a Starship song. What else could a game need, really? The range and creativity of these stages really helps to enhance this much more exaggerated and new world of Sonic that was just being introduced at the time. It leans into the terrific abstract style of CD while still feeling grounded. Of course, under a modern scope, the reuse of level structures does hold this game back in terms of what it's capable of, but even under that limitation, the devs still managed to cram in ideas left, right, and centre. Sure, you got the wisps, but the level design itself and general gameplay loop encourages exploration while not limiting the player to exploration alone. If you want to go straight to the end, you can, but if you want to dig around or fly around to see what secrets there are, then you can. Improving on a gameplay loop of a similar early title. Colours, yeah. Finally, the atmosphere and general tone of colours might not appeal to a lot of people, but the space aesthetic and the bright lights mixed with the range of different funky and rock music and the pace it's at, it's just bliss. And reminiscent of CD's old zones and themes. Okay, to address the elephant in the broken white void, Colours shares a couple things in common with CD, and I really like both games' general tones and styles. Which is a shame, because the only thing keeping me from saying CD's my favourite is the gameplay, which serves more as a gateway into the insane. So, Colors wins because Yakka. Yeah! Okay, I think that's about it. Yeah, that's a wrap. Okay? Great!
That was pretty good. But you know what? Out of extra spite, let's add Mason in here, because he also picked Sonic Colors. So, let's get him in here too.
Sonic Colors. What a game that was. Now for me personally, this game holds a special place near and dear in my heart when it comes to Sonic. This was one of the first Sonic games I'd ever played. I remember booting up the Wii, chucking the disc in, and playing for hours. Now, before I say anything about why I like this game, I just want to mention something. Was I the only kid that ever wanted to go to Eggman Land? I mean, look at it. It looks good. I mean, I know when you get to some points in the game, there's like lava and dangerous stuff, but it still looked pretty fun to be at. Anyways, like I said, a big part of me loving this game is the nostalgia. Like I said, one of the first Sonic games I've ever played. And I played it too much, like a lot, like to the point where I'm surprised that my parents weren't concerned by how much I would play the game. I'd just play it over and over and over again, looking for new things to discover and new things to enjoy within the game. Now for the uncultured bunch, and anyone who hasn't touched Sonic Colors, first of all, what is wrong with you? You're watching a Sonic video, yet you've never touched Sonic Colors. Are you okay? But anyways, for anyone who hasn't played Sonic Colors, or cannot remember what it's about, I will give you the briefest explanation that my mind can tell me right now. Sonic Colors is a game where Eggman decides to make a theme park. Don't know why, but he does. He thinks a theme park's a good idea. So he creates a theme park, but hidden in the theme park is actually the wisps that he has enslaved and is forced to do his dirty work. And Sonic, being just the legendary hero that he is, just the absolute, the guy, the chap, comes in and saves all of them. That's realistically it. And yeah, overall, it's just a pretty fun game. I enjoyed it quite a lot, so obviously the Ultimate Remaster was pretty hype for me. Obviously I played that, and just like talk about it right now, it was a big wave of nostalgia hitting me. But I guess realistically that's my point. That's why Sonic Colors is my favourite Sonic game. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mason.
Well, that got out of hand. I guess you could say I was in a bit of a rush, wasn't I? Much like the next game we're going to be talking about from Jackaboy.
Yo, it's Jack. I really like Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm not sure if you'd be able to pick up on that or not, because I'm stuck in this collaborated hell. You see this thing? Now imagine a Sonic game, but you weren't just stuck on one screen. The year is 2005. I just recently got shot out the womb, and that same year Dimp's magnum opus, Sonic Rush, is released.
Dimp's fourth Sonic game, and the pseudo-introduction of the
This is Aria, by the way.
Don't fucking interrupt me. As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted.
Jeez, sorry.
Sonic Rush is the pseudo-introduction of the boost formula before Sonic Unleashed and the 3D boost games iterated upon it.
The way Sonic Rush does the boost formula is super interesting compared to the modern 3D boost games. You get boost by defeating enemies and whatnot, sure, but the best way to get boosts is by doing tricks after hitting a spring, ramp, grind rail, or trick ring and hearing the same 3 sound clips over and over.
Sonic Rush is also the introduction of Blaze the cat. She plays very similar to Sonic, but with some slight tweaks. Blaze is slower and has a glide and farther reaching tricks, while Sonic is faster and can air dash and homing attack.
Once you cap out the boost gauge, you get unlimited boost for a short amount of time, which is a really good mechanic. The story is pretty simple in the most convoluted way possible. Eggman teams up with an alternate version of himself / descendant of his, whose name you'll never catch me saying. Eggman nigga! Sonic and Tails go do their thing and stopping dimensions from fucking exploding. Blaze gets thrown into their dimension and goes to stop the other Eggman, learning the meaning of friendship along the way. And also Knuckles and Amy are here for some reason. This game is something that's really special to me. A big part of it is definitely nostalgia, don't get me wrong. Like the level design, some aspects of it hasn't really held up the best. Dim's level of enemy gauntlets and bottomless pits is kinda not that great, and the story and characterization is kind of ass, but like, that's just part of the Sonic Rush experience to me. You take the good with the bad, you gotta take what you get, you know?
How about the bosses?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
And those auto-scroller sections?
Stop. So, Sonic Rush was one of the first games I remember playing. It's the reason I'm a Sonic fan to this day, and that is absolutely thanks to the style. This game just oozes charm and style at every turn, from the graphics, 3D models and animations, to the gameplay placing an emphasis on doing things stylish with the trick mechanics, and especially the soundtrack. Blaze is also one of my favorite characters in the Sonic franchise, and her interactions with Silver later in the series fill me with life. Yes, I will subliminally insert my favorite ship into my segment, and you cannot stop me!
Okay, but how about those bosses though?
You only do this because you like to see me suffer, don't you?
Yup.
Oh yeah, there's actually no sugarcoating this. The bosses in this game are just actually shit. Imagine, just for a second, the bosses from the older 2D titles. Here's the Green Hill Wrecking Ball from Sonic 1. Yeah, I know, basic example, just bear with me for a second, okay? As you can see, very rarely is the boss in a state where you just have to wait for it to do something. You always need to worry about both being offensive and laying on damage, and making sure you don't get hit. In Sonic Rush, you wait until the boss does something, see if it's left open for one attack, and attack it. If it doesn't leave itself open, oh well, better wait some more. If you miss the opening because it gets shorter as the boss takes more damage, oh well, better wait some more. And oh baby, that's not all. The lower health the boss is at, the less likely it is to do the attack that leaves it open. And every boss is like this. The only boss that I'd say is good is the Dung Beetle one from Mirage Road, because it's fun to keep knocking back the metal ball to hit the boss, but that's still one good boss out of 9! 9!
Are you done?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think I'm done.
Cool. Can we talk about the auto-scroller segments now?
I am Shadow the Hedgehog, and NitPicker forgot to record a segue for this next person. I gotta be frank, NitPicker is a disgusting collab host.
Hello everyone, I'm Frank from the YouTube channel GottaBeFrank, and ignore whatever the heck that is, just don't worry about it. Anyways. A lot of the earliest games that I played growing up are titles that I can go back to and have a really good time with. And then there's Sonic Adventure. Never have I played a 3D platformer where the game felt perfect. The amount of control is exactly what I wanted in a 3D Sonic game. Fast enough to go through the more Sonic-like parts, but not too fast, so that way the player has complete control over the characters. The jump is pretty floaty, with a bit of hang time to allow for more precise platforming. And the character abilities are a joy to use. For example, Sonic Spin Dash. Let's just say there's not a level in this game where I don't spam the Spin Dash. It's fun to use. My personal favorite thing to do is use Sonic Spin Dash, and after using them for so long, I don't recognize certain areas of the game. It's been that long since I've taken the intended path. Knuckles' glide is so satisfying to use, and his punch is useful at times as well. Tails' flight alone can shatter levels, and it's just so much fun to do. While aiming might be slower than the other characters, it means that you get a bit more control. I mean, imagine going through some of these levels as Sonic. You'd probably hit a wall, hit a spike, or fall off the level. Maybe not so much of that last one. And yes, Big the Cat. Look, I understand his gameplay is not great, but the amount of time that you spend playing as Big the Cat compared to playing as the rest of the characters really isn't that much time. And finally, there's Gamma. You shoot things, and the story is probably the strongest part of the game. It's worth playing. And then it all comes down to the final battle against Perfect Chaos. So I played Sonic Adventure around the time that Dragon Ball Z was airing in the States, and loving the Super Saiyan transformation, you know, as a lot of people who grew up with Dragon Ball Z did. When I saw Sonic transform, I thought this was the coolest thing ever. It was the equivalent of it, and I still get pretty hyped up when I see it, so it's left an impression on me. The boss fight, I will say, is more of a spectacle than it is a traditional boss fight because it is really easy. The game also has the Chow Garden. Yes, the Chow Garden, the one thing that we want to see back again and again, but Sega just won't do it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really have the attention span to play this for very long, but it's cool. Visually, the game is pretty sweet. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's a Dreamcast launch title that does some really cool stuff, like Chaos being a fully realized liquid creature. In fact, I enjoy the visuals of the Dreamcast version so much that you're seeing Dreamcast-related mods in Adventure DX on PC, though I doubt that fooled anyone. It's not that I hate Sonic Adventure DX, it's just that I grew up with the Dreamcast version, and I love the way the game looks, and it's just my preferred style. It's a matter of preference. The voice cast is actually the one that I immediately think of when I think of Sonic. And it might just be another nostalgia thing for me. But what I actually enjoy from the performances is how each story doesn't reuse the same lines or anything. New lines are actually introduced, and it's not only the new lines, but also the delivery of these new lines. For example, Sonic's story has a somewhat threatening but slightly goofy Dr. Eggman, because Sonic always has his quips afterwards. But when you play in Tails' story, this guy sounds like a straight up menace. And I love it. I love everything about it. And that's honestly really cool. Sure, you're going through the same cutscenes over and over again, but you're seeing it through the eyes of each character, so you get different delivery and different lines for each character. The music. The music is something I have loved since day one. In fact, I love the soundtrack so much, I would spend a lot of time in the sound test before even playing the game when I boot up my Dreamcast. I can't really get into the music because it'll probably take me forever, and I still feel like I wouldn't be able to do it justice, but here is me holding the Sonic Adventure vinyl. Oh yeah, this thing is so cool. So yeah, that hopefully lets you know how much I love this soundtrack. I'm willing to buy it in a type of media where I don't even have the player for it. This is one of those games where I make it a point to play it at least once a year, for good reason. To me, this is the perfect Sonic game. And if you haven't played it, I actually would recommend picking up the PC version, the one that you've been seeing footage of. And if you want to throw on the Dreamcast mods, feel free to do so, and if you don't want to, hey, that's fine. If you like Sonic Adventure DX, hey, that's valid. Thank you for having me on the video, NitPicker. Oh, that actually sounds like an insult. I swear it wasn't.
Whew, I think I've calmed down a little bit, I hope. Let's head it over to SonicSTA. Like, this is one of the chillest dudes I know, so I'm pretty sure his entry won't piss anybody off. He picked what?
I will not lie to you. In a non-ironic way, Sonic 06 is one of my favorite Sonic games.
What? No, alright. I know that sounds bad.
Yeah, but seriously, this was a game that I grew up with, and it was the first Sonic game that I ever finished. So maybe I like it due to nostalgia, but to me, there's a lot to love about this game. This was a game that I played before I actually finished Adventure 1 or Adventure 2, or even actually played them in the first place. Sonic 06 provided me with an amazing story that I thought was so deep and never done before in the entirety of the franchise. I mean, from the opening cutscene alone in Sonic the Hedgehog's story, and each of the individual characters like Shadow and Silver, you can tell that they wanted to do something big with this game. They wanted this game to be set apart from the other games in the franchise. Whatever you may feel about Sonic 06, the simple fact that Sonic 06 was an ambitious title ranged true regardless. I mean, they did so many things that I feel like Sega would never do again, or would have probably never considered in the first place. Like, for example, they killed off the main character of the entire franchise, and only to have him resurrected by a kiss from a love interest. Now, I'm not saying that all of this is good, but it just shows how different they wanted this game to be from the others in the franchise. Love it or hate it, Sonic 06 is a very memorable game. Characters like Mephiles, Iblis, Silver, Shadow, all of their stories and what they had to do was basically unforgettable. Now, I didn't include Sonic in this list because I think no matter who you are, he had the worst story in the game, but that fact aside, his gameplay still holds up to be the best out of everyone. To answer a question like what do I specifically love about Sonic 06 the most would be pretty difficult for me because there's so much for me to really love about it. Yes, I acknowledge that it has its flaws like, you know, the glitches and everything like that, which in all honesty, when I was younger I didn't seem to encounter all that much, but replaying now, it's kind of glaring. But I think that's the interesting part. I love this game despite the glitches it has. For me, the good things about this game far outweigh the bad. Like, the boss fight with Shadow versus Mephiles always had me on the edge of my seat with this crazy music, and also knowing that it was going to be the most climactic moment in Shadow's story. You can't tell me that when Shadow takes off his inhibitor rings, it wasn't one of the best moments in the series. This game not only showcased the best characterization of Shadow the Hedgehog we've seen, but also a deeper look at Team Dark, which I feel like doesn't get as much attention as it should. That aside, the introduction of Silver the Hedgehog was one that I feel as though is actually unforgettable. He starts off fighting Sonic for what seems to be no reason at all, calling him the Iblis Trigger, and Sonic has no idea what's going on, but he's used to fighting big-named rivals. Admittedly, even though his gameplay was the worst out of the three hedgehogs, I still had fun playing as him as well as his side characters like Blaze and Amy. Then of course there's Sonic's gameplay, which is undisputably the best in my opinion. The Mach Speed sections were so fun, and honestly would love to see them return in a future game. There's a lot more about this game that I feel like I can go into greater detail on, but I feel like I'd end up rambling and talking about just how much I love everything about it. That said, the final story was so epic as you played as every single character except for Sonic, trying to collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds again, while you're being sucked into these black holes or whatever. And then after that, you resurrect Sonic and fight Solaris in perfect final form. The combination of Iblis and Mephiles. While I honestly don't think it was a hard final boss battle, I still had a lot of fun playing it as it was very epic.
Alright, so we need to get back in the middle here because now we had too much modern Sonic and no classic Sonic. So let's meet right in the middle and talk about a game that has both classic Sonic and modern Sonic. Here's Super Saiyan Sonic with Sonic Generations.
Wait, who are you again? Jokes aside, thank you so much for being part of this collaboration with you, talking about, Sonic games and everyone's personal favorites. And I'm so honored to talk about one of my favorites, and it's an anniversary title. When it comes to anniversary titles, the game that comes to my mind is Sonic Generations, because it's the game that actually feels like an anniversary game. Sure, you have SA2 and Sonic 06 as anniversary titles, but they are more of a sequel or a standalone entry. Everything about Generations screams celebration. The game even begins with Sonic celebrating his birthday with his friends. The commemoration of the 20th anniversary saw the return of classic Sonic into a 3D modern Sonic game, whilst retaining that classic side-scrolling perspective gameplay from the Sega Genesis days. And then there's the modern gameplay of the 3D levels similar to those in Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Colors. Levels are divided into 2 acts, which are all taken from Sonic's past, but reimagined, and the levels are split into 3 separate eras: the classic era, the Dreamcast era, and the modern era. What I love about Generations is that not only it brought classic Sonic in a 3D game, but with modern Sonic, it took the best parts of Sonic Unleashed and then tweaked it and basically perfected the boosting gameplay formula. And the level design for both versions are top notch, having multiple branching pathways that connect together near the end of the stage. The levels are filled with iconic obstacles and enemies throughout Sonic's history that fills you with nostalgic memories, and that's what the game aims to do. It's a nostalgic trip down memory lane in high definition graphics, and even the bosses here have been remade into the modern gameplay style. The soundtrack is a banger, just like with every other Sonic game, with Jun Snow being the lead composer and contributions from other musicians in the Sonic franchise, creating amazing past tracks of stages that we all love and enjoy. With 16-bit style remixes for classic Sonic and modern versions for modern Sonic respectively. For a game that was released in 2011, the graphics are top notch, even in today's gaming age, mirroring the quality that was in Unleashed. Now, just like with every Sonic game, or every video game in existence to be honest, Generations isn't perfect. I do have a few issues with it, more like nitpicks. The story is very basic, dare I say lacking, as Generations focuses on gameplay more than story, which is fine. But for those looking for a good story like Unleashed or Adventure 2, you're not going to find it here. And the level themes are a bit restricted since almost half the game is city themed, and the ranking system is very forgiving and easy to get S ranks. But aside from that, the game has a lot to offer, and it's very fun to replay this game from start to finish. And speaking of replayability, it shines the most in the PC version, thanks to the creative Sonic modding community. The door to modding possibilities that were yet to be achieved for a 3D Sonic game just blew right open. For almost a decade, modders have created a huge, vast variety of mods, from character models, to stage mods, to simple fixes for the base game. Modders have literally ported past Sonic games to Generations, including Unleashed, Colors, and even Sonic 06. We have witnessed some of the best works of modding brilliance in the form of mod projects, combining many of different types of mods for the public to experience what the community has to offer. It's safe to say that the availability of mods has helped add the replayability value of this game, and thus extending its relevance in Sonic's long history. And it's part of the reason why I keep coming back, and it's also why I enjoy this game so much. To me, Sonic Generations is a perfect starting point for those who want to experience and get a feel of what the Blue Blur has evolved over the years, as it contains 2 gameplay styles that define the series as a whole. While Generations was designed to appeal to the series' core audience, I do believe it to be the game that casuals can pick up as well. If Sonic Colors is known as a game that brought the series back to its feet, then Generations is the game that reminds people of what Sonic is capable of.
Well, with us returning to Classic Sonic, let's give some love to a classic Sonic fan game. Here's LoGnerrator with Sonic Roboblast 2.
Hello, NitPicker's existent viewers. Thank you all for having me. The game I'm going to be covering today is Sonic Roboblast 2. Fan games were allowed, and my favorite Sonic game, Unleashed, is already being covered by someone else, so. Sonic Roboblast 2 is my second favorite Sonic game of all time and my third favorite game of all time. Despite its state as a fan game, it's so good that it's in my top 3 favorite games of all time. Now, why is that? Well, it's because it's just so well made, polished, and designed. Eat your heart out, Omens! It doesn't have as much of a focus on gaining speed, more so on maintaining it, using your abilities and memorization of the level design to take the best paths to get the best run. SRB2 lets you take control of Sonic and Tails, Sonic alone, Tails alone, Knuckles, and unlockable characters Amy, Fang, and Metal Sonic. Just like in the classic games, each character has their own unique abilities. Sonic has the Thok, Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide and climb, Amy can use her hammer and give teammates shields in the multiplayer mode, Fang can shoot his pop gun and bounce on his tail, and Metal Sonic has a boost mode, which is based off of his attack from his race in Sonic CD. My personal favorite out of the vanilla characters is actually Metal Sonic. It's just so satisfying to keep my momentum going in his boost mode. I love it. The levels are perfectly designed around these abilities, and what some people might perceive as abilities breaking a level, using stuff like Knuckles' glide or Metal Sonic's float to just fly across entire chunks of level, I just see it as good level design. Sonic has always been about taking alternate paths to get a better time, so I don't see this any differently. On top of that, the levels are big and expansive with quite a few different paths to pick from. A lot of paths can lead to an entirely different experience from another. One thing I will mention though, is the game can be pretty brutal when playing it for the first time. However, once you get the hang of it, it is one of the most satisfying and fun Sonic experiences, period. Overall, Sonic Roboblast 2 is the best and most polished fan game I've ever played. It is a perfect transition of the classic formula into 3D, offering multiple different paths and playstyles. A few quick honorable mentions before I go. The multiplayer, special stages, and modding scene all slap. And the soundtrack too. And it was built off of fricking Doom. I'm going to end my segment here. I could go on for hours about this game, and I might do that on my channel at some point. But for now, I'm going to hand it back off to NitPicker. Once again, thanks for having me. This was fun. Like, dude, this game even has a fricking Mario level. Eat your heart out, Nintendo.
Alright, let's just get Unleashed over with already. Here's Unleashed with Unleashed.
Sonic Unleashed is the GOAT, and I will not be taking any objections. Whether you're playing at day, or night, or evening, I mean, you could be playing Sonic Unleashed in an evening. Playing the day and night stages of Sonic Unleashed is an absolute blast. But it does not stop there. Everything surrounding Sonic Unleashed is just perfection. It's like the game just has this aura of awesomeness, meaning that everything relating to and in the game is of the highest quality. So let's talk about those things, shall we? Starting off with the daytime stages of Sonic Unleashed. This was the first time the boost formula from Sonic Rush had been brought into the third dimension. And no, Sonic Heroes' special stages do not count as a boost. Oh, come on, that's not a boost. For the first time creating a game with the boost formula in 3D, I must say, Sonic Team were absolute naturals back in 2008, as this was the best iteration of the boost formula, and it seems like it always will be. Sonic Unleashed might not be as open as the stages in Sonic Generations, but even still, the level design in Sonic Unleashed is something to be cherished. Sonic Unleashed, and just the boost formula in general, relies on you mastering these stages to get a perfect run. The first run through a stage will be fun, but when you return to that same stage, pulling off all the crazy shortcuts and taking the fastest pathways, resulting in a truly perfect run that is also satisfying to watch, then you have truly understood the beauty of the boost formula. Whether it's Windmill Isle, Dragon Road, or Jungle Joyride, you'll always have to be on your toes, ready to react to anything in your path. Some people may look at these stages and say that because you're always boosting, is this boost to win, when that is not the case at all. While it is true that you're going to be boosting a lot in the daytime stages, it's what you do to enable you to keep boosting that lets you win. It ain't boost to win, it's play to win, which sounds more stupid me just saying it aloud. So yeah, it's safe to say that the daytime stages in Sonic Unleashed are certified based. So let's talk about the other certified based playstyle in the game. The Werehog is great. I don't care who disagrees with me here, because guess what? You're wrong. Starting with the combat, it is holy crap! Jesus bloody Christ, that came out of nowhere. Anyways, like I was saying, the combat is... Hey editor, it was only funny the first time. Wait, I edit my own videos. Anyways, like I was trying to say, the combat is pretty fun. You have a wide variety of... Stop! Unleash! You ain't funny, mate, alright? God. Anyways, you have a wide variety of moves to take on enemies, which obviously requires leveling up due to the RPG system in the game. Now while this does mean that starting out with the Werehog can be a bit of a drag, it makes coming back to these stages and just strategizing what you want to level up all the more fun. Platforming is very fun with the Werehog too, as alright, I get it, the battle moves can be extremely annoying. Platforming is really fun with the Werehog too, as... nothing? Can I continue? Alright, okay. think we're good. You have a lot of ways to traverse through them. You have the extra height you can gain by going into ball form. You also have the aerial moves to get some more distance. And just overall, the platforming has a lot of flow to it that I love, especially in the rooftop run clock tower. Speeding through that section gives me an immense amount of satisfaction. The Werehog can have a few control hiccups here and there, but that's the side of a Sonic game anyways. One of people's biggest issues with the Werehog is that his stages are way too long, and while that can be true for a first time run through the game, that is just a beauty of replayability, as coming back to the stages and finishing them in under 4 minutes just shows how much you've improved as a player. Now in fear of me going on a bit too long here, I'll just speed through the other aspects of the game. The music is absolutely amazing, the voice acting is top tier, the story is great, it has a really nice tone throughout the game looks beautiful, it's got a nice art style, the animation quality is very high, and the CGI looks amazing too. But the Werehog though, outstanding. And I think that is everything honestly, so yes, I'm sure I'll convince you that Sonic Unleashed truly is the pinnacle of video gaming. What do you mean no? But anyways, medal collecting is good and yeah, bye bye.
Now, I did put a limit on each game. I said that you could only pick 2 people, that only 2 people could pick a game. However, I did make an exception for 1 person, but if I was going to break my rules, they had to do 1 thing for me.
Today, I want to talk about a Sonic game that I hold very close to my heart, and that is Sonic Unleashed. This game is crazy, controversial, and very high budget. I love Sonic Unleashed, but this game has some very mixed opinions. Sorry, I was forced to say this line by Cole. Otherwise, I would not make it in this video, so you know what, you can blame him for all the terror that I just put you through, alright? Anyway, Sonic Unleashed is the definition of based. It's a very based Sonic game. It's obviously my favorite, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it right now. But honestly, I think some of you guys just don't appreciate how based Sonic Unleashed actually is, you know what I'm saying? It may not be a masterpiece of any sort, it certainly does have flaws, but regardless of its flaws, it's certainly a very special game. It's one of those games that you play and you get very frustrated with. There's a lot of minor issues that eat away at you, but you can't stop playing the game. Sonic Unleashed is like the Super Mario Sunshine of Sonic games, or the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker of Sonic games. There are issues with this game, but there's so much that this game did right that you just can't look away from. At a certain point, I feel like players' favorite games are the ones that resonates with them the most, the one that they feel most connected to. Your favorite game is typically not a masterpiece, and even if it is a quote-unquote masterpiece, I can guarantee you someone disagrees with that. I mean, personally, I feel that Sonic Mania is a masterpiece, but a lot of people don't think it is. They're fucking wrong, but you know, I can't prevent other people's opinions. It is what it is, you know? In conclusion, to sum up all of my thoughts, I think Sonic Unleashed is the worst video game ever created, and honestly, I'm so tired of Sonic fans going on Twitter and saying the game is good when it clearly is not. Like, it has way too many issues for its own good. And that's all I have to say about Sonic Unleashed.
Alright, well, we've talked about a lot of big Sonic games, but there's a few small ones that people have a big heart for, much like our next game. And I'll be honest, when this person sent me this game, I was a little caught off guard, but I mean, it's still okay. But here, you be the judge. Here's NecroNexus with a Sonic Pocket Adventure. Sega!
So Sonic Pocket Adventure. Yeah, it's a handheld Sonic game, but I want to go deeper than that. So as my duty as a dying Sonic fan, I shall talk about this game that I really like for some reason. Sonic Pocket Adventure was released for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and it's a mishmash of many Sonic games. It has the level design of Sonic 2, with the music of Sonic 3, and a bit of Sonic Jam in there as well, with the designs of the Adventure era. It's sort of like Mega Man on Game Boy if you really think about it. This game was developed by members at SNK, who would go on to make a company called Dimps later on, which I don't actually know what happened to them. I wonder if they made any advancements in the Sonic series, or maybe any rushing games that people can play? I wouldn't know. The game doesn't really have a story here, which to be honest makes things somewhat confusing. I've heard people say, hey, this takes place before Adventure, as a way of transitioning into the new designs. But I feel as if that's not really true. Sure, Sonic has his green eyes, and the game is titled Pocket Adventure, but I think the green eyes are pretty much just there for display, and the title could also be a spin on the console it's on, Neo Geo Pocket Color. But yeah, this game is pretty weird, let me tell you, but it's also a great game. Sure, it might be just Sonic 2 with Sonic 3 music, but it's fairly high quality for what I just described. The physics, while not one-to-one, feel right enough to pass off as a true Genesis port of Sonic 2 on this small console. I'd argue it's better than all the Game Gear games combined. That's how good I think this is. The bosses are all fairly well designed, none of which are taken from previous games, I guess aside from the ending, but when we get to that in a little bit. The graphics look pretty good for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and there's a few extra modes here as well aside from the main game, like a puzzle mini game room and a duel mode, which I can't play, sadly. There's also special stages, but those are taken from Sonic 2, so I automatically hate them. After going through Scrap Brain Zone with Desert Palace music and Metropolis Silver designed white, you then get to fight Eggman with this new hovercraft in space. And there's a Chaos mode on the map, knocking out, and you get Doomsday Zone from Sonic 3. Yeah, I know it's getting really tiring seeing all these rehashes, but keep in mind this was back in the Neo Geo days. I don't think anyone cared that much about rehashes. But after defeating Eggman once again, with these really cool cutscenes and some nice credit music, we get a thanks for playing message at the end of the game. Nice. Overall, Sonic Pocket Adventure is a pretty decent handheld Sonic game with a lot of weirdness to it, but the good aspects of the game really help it shine. And of course it's a 10 out of 10 on IGN, can't ignore that. I'm Necro, this has been a pocketable review of Sonic Pocket Adventure, and I really hope you enjoyed this part of the collab. Speeding on!
That was a bit of a nice smaller game, wasn't it? You know what else is small though? The penis size of everyone who likes Sonic Heroes, much like Dito. Here he is. I'm gonna go grab a helmet.
Sonic Heroes is it's just one of those games that the fan base doesn't really look that fondly upon, and those who do look fondly upon it are probably the most nostalgia blind mother freakers on the planet. I, however, am not one of those people. I acknowledge Sonic Heroes' flaws, but I also don't think the slipperiness adds to the challenge, so that automatically makes me the best Sonic Heroes fan, clearly. I just think Sonic Heroes is simply one of the most fun Sonic games in both aesthetic and gameplay. The level design just simply feels like the 2D games were brought straight into 3D. And it only helps that the environments feel like they're straight out of a classic game, you know? There's no city cohesion, kind of like realism. That's what I meant to say, realism. There's not a lot of realism. It keeps in with that Sonic-y fantasy vibe that the original games kind of went with, and I think that's so awesome about the game, is because there's such a diverse atmosphere within the game. Not only are there a lot of characters, but there are a lot of different environments you trek through as well that are just so much fun. You got Seaside Hill, Grand Metropolis, Rail Canyon, Casino Park to a much lesser extent, Final Fortress, Egg Fleet, so many fantastic levels that feel like they're just ripped straight out of a fantasy book. It's so much fun. It's just kind of like a shut off your brain and have fun kind of thing, but not in the Sonic Forces kind of way where you get no enjoyment out of it. In the Sonic Heroes way, where it's actually a lot of fun. Another thing that's just makes Heroes goated, in my opinion, is, well, I only think a few levels in Heroes, specifically like 2 or 3, they miss the mark, alright? Let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves. Casino Park is terrible. But, hey, the soundtrack does not miss one single time, and that I will completely die on that hill. The soundtrack in Sonic Heroes is one of the best. It's one of the most consistent Sonic soundtracks of all time. I mean, we have so many great instrumental tracks for the levels, and not to mention the amazing and iconic vocal themes from Crush 40, and the vocal themes for the teams. I mean, there's so much to love about this game. The original Dreamcast cast are at their absolute peak in this game. You know, Ryan Drummond sounds like the best he's ever sounded. It's a shame they got rid of him so early, but it's such a magnificent game. I feel like if everyone just played the GameCube version of the game and really gave it a second chance, sure, playing through the same game 4 times can get a little grating, but there's enough changes to make the game feel fresh every time. Yeah, Sonic Heroes is kind of goated.
Sonic Heroes, though. What if I got a YouTuber that liked both comic books and Sonic? But that's pretty impossible, right? Fans of Sonic don't usually like other things, so I'm sure it's impossible.
So, truth be told, my favorite Sonic game was already taken, and I wasn't about to risk taking somebody else's favorite Sonic game. So, in the spirit of us showing love to specific Sonic games, I figured I would pick a game that absolutely nobody is going to pick as their favorite. So, take the W's that you can, Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric. This game has a reputation for being not only one of the worst selling Sonic games of all time, but just being downright one of the worst. If you ask a lot of Sonic fans and just general gamers what the worst Sonic games are, you'll usually get one of 2 answers: Sonic 06 or Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric. But while Sonic 06 is gathering something of a cult following, Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric still ain't getting no love. And admittedly, I can see why it's not getting love. There's really not much here to love. But truth be told, I don't hate this game either. This game delivered a less arcadey, more immersive take on Sonic the Hedgehog, something a bit more open-ended, with some improved animations and characterizations for Sonic and his entire gang. We were seeing the return of multiple playable characters as well, and this game put its emphasis on combat and traversal. Now, the combat is not very interesting at all, and neither is the traversal. And in fact, traversal was actually very important to Sonic, and yet here he kind of just stays at a gentle jog, and the few times he does run fast, it just kind of chugs in the frame rate department. But in the spirit of showing love, I think Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric still provided a pretty solid template for what a Sonic game could be going forward. More open-ended, more story-based, new combat elements. Almost feels like the progenitor for Sonic Frontiers, which comes out later this week and looks fantastic. Don't know if that's outdated or not. Depends when NitPicker is uploading this. Truth be told, Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric, I just don't get the hate. I get the lack of love, but I don't get the hate. I played this thing and it's a 4 out of 10 at worst. Also, the TV show was just peak comedy. If you want to know my actual favorite Sonic game, it currently is Sonic Adventure 2. So whoever's doing that one, you'd better do it justice, or else I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to end you.
Any of you wish to go back in time to see what would happen if Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric was an actual good game? I do. And I wish there was a way that we could time travel the same way Sonic does in Sonic CD. Speaking of Sonic CD, here's Generation Game with Sonic CD.
How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing well. For my portion, I'm going to be talking about Sonic CD. CD was the first game I got when I first got an iPod Touch and loved it ever since. Right when you boot up the game, you're given this sweet animated intro of Sonic just straight up running around, just doing all sorts of tricks. You even get him doing the spin dash as he's heading for this whole new area to explore to fight Robotnik. It looks incredible. Interesting enough, this game also has 2 different soundtracks for its region. One for the American version and one for the Japanese version. I personally prefer the Japanese version because I love the music for each of the zones, especially when you get to Stardust Speedway. But for the American version, you do get the opening with Sonic Boom. Not this, by the way. I'm talking this. Yeah, that one. Also features a unique time travel mechanic where if Sonic runs past this sign that either says past or future, and if he runs fast enough, he'll actually travel through time and the level will uniquely change to a different point in time. It actually changes the whole level and gives you unique ways to go throughout the level, either the past, present, or future. You have 3 different ways of playing that zone. Sick ability, by the way, that I love that I'm hoping comes back way more often for 2D Sonic games is the Super Peel, which has him just where you push up and then charge, and then it just shows his feet making this figure 8. And it just looks so good when that happens, because like he charges for a bit and then boom, just zooms around. You just see that whole animation that he's running through. It looks so good. It's also the first time when we get to see Amy in the mainline story, as she's introduced in Closing Chaos Zone right at the start, and then is taken away by Metal Sonic, which is also an introduction to Metal Sonic as well. But as she's taken away and Sonic has to go freer. I like for me in this game is just going to Stardust Speedway, Act 3, and facing off against Metal Sonic and just straight up running as fast as possible away from Robotnik's Death Beam as fast as you can, while also trying to avoid him as he like dashes through you or just like hits you with this invincible shield, and you just have to like make it to the goal as fast as possible to save Amy, or you're just toast. It's a fun boss fight to always go back to. I was so happy to see this be brought back in Sonic Origins, so I can finally replay this again, and with the drop dash added as well. And also be confused by the fact that Sonic CD took place in between Sonic 1 and 2. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
But you know, you probably could time travel like Sonic if you were fast enough and went 88 miles per hour. If only you had a boost bracelet.
Oh, hello there. I'm BoostBracelet, a YouTuber that creates reviews on different types of media. And obviously, since I'm here, I was a big fan of the Blue Hedgehog. And if I was asked what my favourite Sonic game was, I'd say Sonic Unleashed. But NitPicker said it was taken and I went for Generations, which is equally good, and it was my first Sonic game, so it has a bit of a personal connection to me. Sonic Generations is a game that is a celebration of the series up to that point, with its new addition being the introduction of classic Sonic, characters that would play like Sonic did in the beginning with his 2D style of gameplay. Meanwhile, modern Sonic would continue the playstyle that people praised in Unleashed in Colors, being the boost formula. But yeah, no, this is a fantastic on how they remake these locations that were last seen on the Dreamcast or Genesis into the new era. It's kind of cool seeing how far Sonic has come just graphically. Plus, they were brave enough to reference games like 06 or Unleashed, which were ridiculed by critics and the general public. And Sega comes in with confidence and brings back these reimagined levels like it's a no big deal. Oh, and did I forget to mention all the 90 extra missions where you can play these levels where you'll team up with characters like Rouge or SPO. Hell, you get to play a treasure hunting level with Knuckles. How cool is that? That's not mentioning this game's modding scene. So I'll quickly show up some on screen with its name, so if you want to download it, just look it up on like Game Banana or a couple other websites. So in conclusion, Sonic Generations 11 years later is still an incredible love letter to Sonic's history, which Sega thought was so good they'd spend the next 10 years trying to recapture its success. Thank you for listening to me ramble about how Sonic Generations has been the best Sonic game Sonic Team has made in 11 years. So yeah, the story is poo-poo, and the 3DS game we do not talk about. Thank you for listening, goodbye.
There are a few Sonic games that I feel are hated for literally no reason, much like our next game that my friend Bryce is going to be bringing to you all. The complaint of Sonic with a sword is so stupid. Why was that an actual complaint? Sonic is badass with a sword.
Dark Age. A shiver runs down your spine. Every Sonic fan's spiciest topic of discussion. Was it any good? Was it the start of the downfall for Sonic? Twitter runs wild with these conversations. As for me, dude, Sonic is raw. And you want to know when he was at the peak of raw? Sonic and the Black Knight. One of the most polarizing games in the community, stands the test of time to be one of the best Sonic games ever made. The controls? Nah, that still sucks. I'll be the first to admit it. What this game provides to the franchise that is only ever seen in the comics is something that every Sonic fan should be able to experience. A good story. A captivating one, even. Deep and rich characters, world building to make the setting more believable, and so much more. This game makes up for the sum of its parts with the story it chooses to tell. The story continues in the footsteps of Sonic and the Secret Rings, choosing to take Sonic into an all-new and untold direction. Storytelling. Get it? Because he went into a book in the series called the Sonic Storybooks. Okay, that was lame. You know what isn't lame? How the story chooses to introduce itself. Sonic, in a world foreign to him, becomes a vehicle to introduce us to the world. It doesn't feel forced for the audience to understand the world. We learn what this world is and who everyone is as Sonic does. We feel connected to Sonic as a lens into this new world. He's unaware of where he is, but he knows what he has to do. Save the day. I would continue, but for anyone who hasn't had the chance to play this game yet, please do so. Even if the game is 13 years old, everyone should experience this story firsthand. I've chosen to spend a lot of time talking about the story, but as I mentioned, there is a whole, game to this thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't control as well as something like the Sonic Adventure games, Sonic Unleashed, or Sonic Generations. While not as bad as its predecessor, Sonic and the Black Knight uses the Wii Remote and Nunchuck to play. This allows for more precise movement, but it still feels like Sonic is a bus or a train. While I have limited time to discuss this, I will mention two final things: the music and the designs. The music of the game sets the setting very well. The music is indicative of the world Sonic has found himself in. It's catchy, metal, and most of all, raw. The designs complement this very well. Seeing Sonic's friends in medieval armor and working gear is a delight to see. It builds the theme of this world, tying right into the music, the story, and the world that is trying to be built in this game. It's why I love this game so much. Not for the gameplay, but for the story and the world building on display. Sonic and the Black Knight is a classic for me, and will always continue to remain as such.
This collab feels like a hub. Almost like a Sonic hub?
Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 2 is the best Sonic game of all time. Or at least in my opinion, I think Sonic 2 is the strongest out of all the 2D Sonic games. Yes, I'm talking Sonic Mania, and yes, I'm even talking Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But let me explain why. This game absolutely revolutionized the franchise forever. This was the game that introduced our boy Tails. We got our boy Sonic running through Emerald Hill. The game starts off really strong. You're thrusted right back into the action of a Green Hill-esque styled level, and it picks up right where it left off. As far as pacing goes, I think that this game has the best pacing in the entire series. First and foremost, the best part of this game is the speedrunning capabilities. I've been able to beat this game 5 times in one live stream before. It takes about 45 minutes to do so, and it feels like at no point in time your pace ever really stops. Except for Metropolis Zone. We all hate Metropolis Zone. When you're playing Sonic 3, your pace slows up in the Carnival Zone, Sandopolis, or even when you're playing Sonic Mania, Titanic Monarch Zone. The flow of those games can get interrupted pretty often. But how does Sonic 2 progress into Zone number 2? Chemical Plant. It starts with one of the fastest sections in all of 2D platformers at the time. Look at this right here. My boy is absolutely flying through the level. This game had the real sense of speed. From start to finish, it feels like it's a very fluid pace, and no levels are really bad. Where I can't really say the same for about Mania and Sonic 3. Obviously, it's an opinion, so don't get at me in the comments, okay? The best way to describe Sonic 2's pacing is definitely during the Aquatic Ruins level. This right here puts the full level design and concept and core principles of Sonic on display. If you take the upper path in this level, you will breeze through this in like 45 seconds. But if you're not skilled enough and you take the lower path, this level could take you 2 to 3 minutes and be very frustrating with the water sections. The skill gap, speedrunning capabilities, and the creativity that this game allows for players to have is what keeps me playing over and over again. Plus the quick 45-minute playthroughs is something that I really love about this game, and it's definitely the most impactful game of all time. This game literally added the spin dash, which is Sonic's signature move, which you've seen in almost every form of media ever. You don't have enough speed, you do the spin dash and go up. It's one of the most annoying things about Sonic 1 and why I really think Sonic 1 is actually mid. Aside from some of those clunky levels, is the fact that there's no spin dash. This game also felt very epic, it had a very grand scale. Obviously, it's a 2D platformer, so there's no talking, but the story is still fire. As you progress through Metropolis and slug through that level, you make it to Wing Fortress Zone and have a nice little tune playing, and it feels very heroic, and it feels like you're actually about to save the world, basically. You make it out to Wing Fortress Zone, and then the Death Egg Zone, where you fight the Silver Metal Sonic, which is pretty cool, and then you finally take on the Death Egg Robot, which is one of the most iconic boss battles in any video game ever. And the game finally ends off with this iconic moment right here. Oh my god, this right here is chef's kiss, bro. It's perfect. Sonic 2 was a major factor in bringing Sega up to speed in the console wars with Nintendo in the 1990s that I'm sure everybody knows about. It brought up Sega's market share to 40% within 6 months of release. It's safe to say that Sonic 2 might have been the most impactful game in the franchise, and those are the reasons why it's my favorite game of all time, and honestly why I think it's the best 2D Sonic game ever.
And now, I think I have saved the best for last. You see, when you think of the Sonic community, there are a few people that spring to mind. And not only have I gotten one of those people you probably think of, but they also run the most popular and well-known source of Sonic news. That's right. The person you're thinking of is pretty mardiculous, isn't it? Huh? Here he is.
That right there is why Sonic Adventure is the greatest Sonic game of all time. Thank you. Have a great day. Peace. Just kidding. Before I do anything, I want to thank all the content creators that are part of this collab. They are some of the most honest and talented people I have had the pleasure of getting to know over the past couple years. Also, by the way, I'm Evan from TailsChannel. Hi, nice to meet you. I've been in the community active online for around almost 20 years now. Oh god. So when I say these people are wicked talented and they're going to bring you into the next era of Sonic, I'm not messing around. Okay, enough warm fuzzies. Let's get into the topic at hand. So why is Sonic Adventure the greatest Sonic game of them all? Well, it's simple, right? This is the first 3D Sonic game. And so we finally have the opportunity to have these characters voiced. And also, this was the first Sonic game in a very, very long time. There was a little bit of a drought, right, with the Sega Saturn. And so Sonic had been gone for a long time. And so tech had improved so rapidly that it was kind of insane, the jump from the main series games to this one. And so they took that opportunity to give these characters not only a voice, but also an opinion about things that they were going through throughout the story. And that was the first time ever that happened. And they did it with such grace, and it was so authentic to their portrayals in the classic games. And it felt really like they opened the floodgates to getting to know these characters on a deeper level. These are cartoon characters, which, might I add, cartoon characters are normally used to be relatable, right? Like, the first things that come to mind for me are like SpongeBob or like Mickey Mouse. They're designed to be relatable. That's why they're animals, because anybody can kind of plug themselves into them. They're very accessible in that way. But typically, cartoon characters are used to be relatable for the purposes of comedy. And so Sonic really, really had to push to have these cartoon characters that still could do comedy, but they wanted it to have the light and the darkness. Not only that, but Sega itself wanted to compete in every single media area that a video game brings to the table. So that means soundtrack, which you just heard it. The soundtrack is god tier. The graffiti-esque art style on the promo art really caught people's attention. You've got the world design, right? Some people daydream about what it would be like if Sonic Adventure looked a little bit more like faithful to the original classic titles. But the reason they went for a more realistic look is because they were trying to compete graphically with the N64. And so if it looked too much like the other platformers at the time, Banjo-Kazooie and stuff like that, it would kind of just fall into the same category. And clearly in Sonic Adventure, they were making a distinct effort to make him stand out. And so yes, in hindsight, maybe the fact that they went for a realistic environment might have been a little bit disappointing, but that contextualizes it. And it visually looks like a game that wouldn't be featuring cartoon characters. So there's this weird contrast, but there was nothing like it. And so that's what really hooked me. Not only that, but this is something that people criticize Sonic Adventure for a lot, but Sonic's Adventure to be as accessible as possible. The elephant in the room, Chow, right? A pet simulator. That's something that anybody can participate in and enjoy, where, like it or not, classic Sonic is not accessible to everybody. If you've ever tried to hand a Genesis controller to somebody to play Classic Sonic, they're not always able to pick it up right away. Classic Sonic is the type of thing where you have to kind of really commit a lot of time to it before you can really start enjoying the flow that the level design allows you to take advantage of. Chow is a great way to encourage people that might not have that skill or might not originally have the drive to experiment for the sake of flowing through the levels. They want to take care of a little chow creature. And like them or not, Big was there for the dads. They've literally said this in interviews. They put a fishing game in there because they wanted something for the dad to be able to enjoy as well. And so this constant narrative that like Sonic is for kids, they were clearly aiming way, way higher. You can tell that a bulk of my love for this game is just kind of how this was opening the door to cartoon characters being taken seriously and truly what it seemed like the classic games were trying to do for us, but just did not have the technology quite yet to do. And I was like, sign me the hell up, bro. And I'm still here.
Ain't that nice? But to our final guest, who has the most based opinion out of everyone. And if you disagree, you're stupid. For this next guest, I want you to agree with every single word they say, because their opinion, I just agree with it 100%, and it is super based. Mine! Alright, so my favorite Sonic game. I have a few options. I can pick Sonic Unleashed PS2 because that was my first Sonic game, but maybe I should pick the Sonic game that made me into the core Sonic fan I am today, and is literally the coolest, badass, and one of the most emotional Sonic games before he turned into this. Sonic Adventure 2 was the first hardcore Sonic game I got into after watching Let's Plays of it, after I'd gotten into Sonic because of Sonic X. And while Sonic Unleashed on PS2 was my first Sonic game, Sonic Adventure 2 was when I started to discover what Sonic was, with, in my opinion, one of the best portrayals of all these characters together, while introducing Shadow the Hedgehog, who would come to be one of my favorite characters before he died. Before we talk about the gameplay, how could I go on without talking about the Chow Garden, one of the greatest side features in a game ever that's objectively correct, adding so much replayability to an already replayable game. You can make chows of so many types, and people get really into this stuff too. Come on, this needs to return in a new Sonic game, like come on! Oh, and also, I have a mod that mods my OC in the game, which is pretty cool. But let's talk about the gameplay. I understand a lot of the criticism surrounding this game, which some I get and some I don't. But you have 6 playable characters with 3 playstyles. You have Sonic and Shadow, who have high-speed platforming, Tails and Eggman have mech shooting, and Knuckles and Rouge have treasure hunting. And while the third one can get annoying, especially because of the space stages, together working in tandem through the story, I think work great. All of the characters control great to a little clunky, but okay. Also, they're a mech. But why I think this works is because the whole game is about speed. You don't spend way too long in these stages. Not even the treasure hunting ones if you're good at them. Again, except for the space stages. No, those are bad. And running along, just homing in on as many enemies as possible while running through the level will never not be satisfying. But of course, the action stages are where Sonic Adventure 2 shines. You can talk about your orcas or your volcanoes in Sonic Adventure, but how can you compare that to skating down the streets of San Francisco? How can you compare that to trying to rescue your comrade before the island explodes? I'm not dogging on Sonic Adventure, but Sonic Adventure 2 hands down has to be the most memorable Sonic experience, whether you're including the story or not. If you are including the story, which is one of the greatest in the series, you have one of the most memorable and iconic Sonic games ever, with one of the best final bosses story-wise, and a bittersweet ending that gets me even to this day. Hopefully one day, Sonic will live up to this level of hype again, because nothing makes me happier than every time I start to boot up Sonic Adventure 2. And that marks the end of this collab. This collab is in production for 2 months, and a lot of people had to cancel last minute, which was really heartbreaking, but I think this collab worked really well. And honestly, I'm just really happy seeing everybody so positive, and I just really hope Frontiers, I hope everybody in this collab and beyond is satisfied with Sonic Frontiers, because it seems to be something that a lot of people are looking forward to, because it's going back to a lot of things that we miss from Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, like his character, you know, how all the characters used to be. And I really hope Frontiers delivers. I think it is. I think it's going to. But I hope everybody is at least a little bit satisfied by it. But anyway, that's going to be it for this amazing collab. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy Sonic Frontiers. And if you want, please subscribe, because I'll be doing a first impressions and a nitpick of it whenever the game releases. So, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, got a bunch of great content in the works, and I'll see you in the next one.